Theresa, welcome to the Sober Side podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. So for the audience who doesn't know, this is our first episode with not the best filming equipment. We actually got burglarized not too long ago, but we're still making it work. You know, we still got to spread the message. So I'm grateful that you are with us through this difficult time right now. It's not too bad.
No, it's not.
We don't have all of our fancy cameras and things like that, but we're still going to make it work. So without further ado, tell us, first of all, if you're AA or NA, and how much time in recovery you have, and what was your drug of choice?
Theresa, and alcoholic, obviously, and I am in AA. And the dabbling drug of choice was cocaine, for sure, because it kept my balance. Mm-hmm. And, it's methamphetamine also came into play as well. Anything that was the upper part, I was totally down for because it helped balance the alcohol out.
And how much time sobriety do you have?
I have 12 years.
12 years.
It'll be almost 12 years in February, but 11 currently.
Right on. And how was childhood like growing up? Where did you grow up? Where are you from? Give us a little bit of, background.
I grew up, my parents, my mom, she was a great mom. We had a very good relationship. She's like my best friend. And very open. And I grew up, I was born in Riverside and then kind of raised all through California. We moved, she had divorced my dad when I was 2. And then she met my stepdad. I kind of call him the evil stepdad. And she met him and we moved to Huntington Beach for a short while and then moved down to Carlsbad and lived in Carlsbad for probably about 9 years, and that until she finally had enough of his crazy, because there was a lot of abuse upon me and her and my stepbrother that, was his son and everything. He was an alcoholic and drug addict. And so there was a lot of that trauma as a kid. And then she finally had enough of him. I wasn't there at the house at the time. I was up at a friend's house playing, but he basically put a gun to her head because he said that anybody that called, he wasn't available to talk on the phone. And one of their good friends called. And so she's like, oh, so-and-so's on the phone. And he hopped on the phone. And at that time, because he was a used car salesman, and at that time he was cleaning his gun. And then when he was done cleaning the gun, he put the clip back in and grabbed her and put the gun to her head and said, if you ever do that again, this is what's going to happen to you, and blew the phone off of the wall. And so needless to say, as crazy as that was, she was very calm and she was like, oh, okay. And she had to go make a deposit in that for the car lot. And, so she left and I was up the street playing at my friend's house, and she just quickly packed just a couple of things. And we left and went to Riverside where her sister lived, my aunt, and moved in with them for a short time. And then she... And
how old were you during this time?
About 9 years old.
Okay, so you have memory of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was... there was a lot of trauma in that part of my life, with his abuse and everything. It was, sexual and physical, only sexual once. There was no penetration or anything like that, but, it was the touchy-feely type of thing. And back then, that's when the whole things in school, report if somebody's touched you in the wrong way and everything. So that's when it first started with that. And so I went and I told my mom about it, and she said, if you ever lay a single finger on my daughter again, I'll kill you. And of course she got punished for saying that, but it was a lot. So she picked me up and left. And then we went to my aunt's house in Riverside and stayed there for a while. And then she met my other stepdad, who I consider like my father. I was really close with my dad. My dad was more of the fun dad, my real dad, the see you on the weekend dad. It was a very healthy relationship. But anyway, so she left, and then she met like probably about a year or so after all this. And then she met my stepdad, who I consider my father, and I call him my pappy. But she met him, and we stayed in Riverside for a couple of years and then left there and then moved up to Sacramento, which I consider my hometown because that's where I grew up in my teenage years. So we lived up in Citrus Heights and, grew up there, and it was a great life and a great relationship. He was very strict.
Pappy was?
Yeah, Pappy was very strict. He was born in France and raised in Chile.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a lot of mix there.
A lot of
he had
spices.
the most like
flavors.
Screwed up accent like ever. It was the funniest thing, but yeah, very grateful for that childhood, that part of my childhood. And of course, immediately after my mom had left my evil stepdad, she got me into therapy like right away. She was like, because it was a lot, and she's like, I don't want her to grow up and be absolutely screwed up. So none of that trauma that happened, I don't blame, on my alcoholism whatsoever. Okay. It just kind of, I believe, runs in the family.
Okay, we'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but for the most part, towards with Poppy and moving up to Sacramento, things were good.
Yeah, they were very good.
Life was good.
Very good.
And are your parents with us today?
No, they're not. They're passed. Yeah, all my parents have passed.
Rest their souls.
Yeah.
So how was the teenage years like, and what was your first experience kind of like, experimenting and trying to see what drugs and alcohol feel like?
Well, alcohol is very open in my family. It's one of those things, once you hit your teens, you were allowed to have that glass of wine with dinner in the family. First time I got drunk was with my mom. My mom had been there, done that with a lot of drugs and alcohol through her whole life. But she, it was more, I would say probably when I was about 15, 16 years old was the first time I actually smoked pot with my pappy and her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's how open we were. It was one of those, if you're going to do it, like, we want you to do it underneath our roof. We don't want you to be like anywhere else at a party, where bad things can happen to you, and that you want your friends over, bring your friends over and that. But at the same time, my pappy was very strict. And that
in what sense was he strict?
With school. Yeah, with school,
like,
which is a good thing.
Straight A's and
not straight A's, like C's and above. Like, he was, comparable on things, but I hated school. Didn't like studying and all that stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of things I could have put a little bit more effort into. But I was basically making D's and that stuff. And if it was a C- and below, then I was on restriction. And that, so, and then going out with friends, there wasn't too much of that. He didn't allow it too much. And I had like a huge resentment for the longest time against him for not allowing me to have that in my childhood. But at the same time, if my friends, came over or whatever, that was fine. And I only did it with them. I think I only maybe smoked pot at school like a couple of times come my junior year in high school. And that they had like a smoking section. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be for the smokers. Yeah, basically. It was like 15, 16 years old. So, but
junior
they even had it in the junior high. There was like, it wasn't allowed, but it was a it was a sneaking smoking section type of thing.
It's like the low key smoking.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a designated where you're like, hey guys.
No. And it was the same way in high school. Like, they had it and we just like snuck and smoked our cigarettes and, smoked pot, whatever. But it wasn't so much alcohol then and it was just, off and on, and nothing really took effect in that. So like the addiction part of it, like nothing ever came into play because my friends were all the same way that I hung out with. They were the same way as I was. It was like periodically. It wasn't like, partying like crazy and stuff.
So recalling your first experience, like feeling drunk, how do you remember that? Like, was it something that you really liked, or was it something that was just like kind of or how was that experience?
The first time it's drunk, buzzed. I was buzzed. It was actually a New Year's Eve at my dad's. I was visiting my dad during Christmas break, and the champagne was flowing, of course, and the wine was flowing. And my first time I caught a buzz, I was like, oh, all right, I'm a big kid now. Like I could do this, and had a good time because I always watched my parents, party and drink and laugh and have a great time. That was the first time. And it was, great and fun. It was not to the point where I got sick or anything. I just caught that buzz and it was good. But the initial full-on drunk, I would have to say, probably came when I was 18 years old after I moved out from my parents' house, because I was tired of my pappy's rules. He was like, even though you're 18 years old, you're living underneath our roof, you need to be home at 11 o'clock at night if you go out. And I was like, screw this, I'm out. Like, I'm out. So then I moved in with a friend, and her mom was a drug addict and a meth head and that. So that's where meth started coming into play and more drinking came into play. It was more so the drugs. It was more so meth that came into play. And so I moved in with them. And I was there for probably about a year. And the funny thing is it was in the same apartment complex that my parents lived in. They lived in the front in a duplex, and then I was in the back. And sometimes the parking would get so crazy where they couldn't park up front, so they'd have to park all the way in the back of the complex, and they'd be coming up the street and be like, hi, Mom, hi, Pappy, just loaded. And of course it broke my mom's heart and everything. And she's just like, yeah, she's like, be safe. And as I'm getting in the car with another drunk person, you don't want to see your kids do that stuff, but it's like, they're on their own, like they got to learn and everything. And so one day after being up for a week straight, I went up and, of course it was, because insert alcohol into Theresa and the drugs, she becomes a whore, like so easy, and a whore, like straight out. And so it was one of those things after being up for like a week straight, just doing meth continuously, pretty much like maybe a couple hours a day of sleep. And that I showed up at my mom's and I was like probably all of 90 pounds. And I showed up at my mom's, and being that my mom has been there, done that with drugs. And she just, looked at me and she's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I was having a great time. And she's like, are you working? And I'm like, no, I haven't found a job yet. And, well, what happened to your job? And that, because I was bussing tables at a country club. And she goes, what happened to your job? I'm like, oh, I lost it because I didn't show up so many times. I didn't care. And that's what drugs and alcohol do to me. I don't care. Like if everything around me is fine and there's no hardships being happening, it's all about me and getting high and drunk. Yeah. Like that's the way I was. And so she just looked at me like dead set in the eye. It's like we're talking, and she just says, your cousins are coming up with some family friends from England in an RV from Simi Valley. I would like for you to go back with them. And I just kind of looked at her and I'm like, well, I'll think about it.
Like go back to
move to Simi Valley with them.
Oh, wow.
And then she said, no, I really don't want you to think about anything. I really want you to do this because, and then she started crying. And she's like, I don't want to see you dead in the gutter. For some reason, I say it's God, that I listened. And I hopped in, the next day my cousins came and I hopped in and packed all my stuff up. And I moved down to Simi Valley.
And what age was this around? Like
19.
19.
Yeah. So I was 19. And so I moved down to Simi Valley, and I moved in with my aunt, the one who lived in Riverside. It's the same aunt. It's my mom's twin. And I moved in with my aunt, my cousins, and my uncle.
And she's from England, your aunt?
No, we're Canadian, but we had my cousin Jody. She was a transfer student, so she did a lot of that when she was going to high school, and so she went to England, and then she had met friends who became family, basically. Okay. So, so then I moved in with them, and started going to college. Went to Moore Park College, for a brief moment, and that's really when my alcohol, took over. My alcoholism took off then, because there wasn't any more drugs around. And it's the college scene, that's what you do. You party and you drink, and that stuff. And so I definitely think I went through a period of withdrawal from the methamphetamine, but I wasn't aware of it because I didn't know, because I was sick when I first moved down. It was like a good couple of weeks that I was just really sick. I got dizzy spells and sweats, like the whole thing. It was horrible.
And what did you think that was from?
I had no clue. I just thought I was sick. Yeah, I just thought I was sick. And so, just drinking and partying and having a good time. Like, it was a blast. It was good time. It was good times in my life. And no blackouts or anything. I would get drunk, and there was like a couple of times I'd throw up, but I always managed to cut myself off before getting to that sick part of it. The spins for sure, but I just, like, as soon as I'd hit that plateau, I'd be like, okay, I'm here. Like, I need to slow down and, whatever, because I don't want to get sick. And pot was, here and there, I'd smoke pot and everything, but it wasn't anything. And then, am I going, or do you want to ask more questions? Because I could keep going.
No, keep going.
Okay.
The less questions I can ask,
the more the better. Okay.
No, I don't want to cut you off because you're doing great.
Yeah. Cut me off at any time. But because I learned it pretty quick, once I would hit that point of like tossing my cookies, then I was like, oh man, I'm screwed, so.
And how did that affect your education? Or were you like invested in actually learning?
No, I wasn't that.
So you were just doing it to make the family happy?
To make the family happy, basically, because they were my aunt and uncle were very school oriented people and that. And so, it was to make them happy. They're like, you either need to go to college and then have a part-time job, or you need to have a full-time job. Like, it's one or the other. So I was like, all right, I'll do, go to college and that, and then have a part-time job. And I got a part-time job working at the Simi Valley Parks and Recs, and I can't talk. Recreation. Thank you. And so I worked for them, either keeping score of softball, and then like after school programs for kids and everything, which was really fun. It was a blast. Yeah. And because my cousin, Jason, he's a couple months older than me. He actually got me involved in that. And so I did that for a while, and then kind of got tired of that, and I wanted something more. And so I found a job at Chewy's in Moore Park. What is that? Actually, no, I take it back. I found a job at Home Base. Chewy's came after. I found a job at Home Base, which was like a Home Depot back in the day. Oh, okay. So I got a job there, and I met a full-time job, and then I met who's now my ex-husband, but I met him there. He was a customer service manager, and I was a cashier. Match made in heaven. Pretty much. Yeah. And a big no-no. We both could have been fired. So it was like that whole down low, type thing and stuff. But hell, every manager was screwing probably every cashier at that place. And so we started dating, and we hooked up, and gosh, I'm trying to think how many years it was that we were dating. It was probably 4 years, I want to say 5 years. And then he finally proposed to me and we moved in together.
At what age was this when you got proposed to?
So it's probably because I met him when I was 20 and there's 9.5 years, the difference between us. So he's 29. And, yeah, so it was like 20 when I met him. So it was shortly after, I had moved down. It's like 20. Yeah. Because before I was 21. So I was 20. And, so then we just kind of hooked up and still drinking and that, but nothing like too crazy.
Was he using any kind of?
No, he's a normie. He's 100% like the normie guy. He had been there, done that like in the past with drugs. He dealt coke and everything. But he had been there, done that already. He'd drink. He was one of those 2 beer drinkers.
Yeah.
And he was buzzed. It was like total bipolar opposite of me. And so we hit it off and that, but he had a lot of insecurities and jealousy. And then of course it's all about me and whatever. And it's like, I'm being 100% faithful with you, but since you're accusing me of doing this stuff, I might as well do it. Was like it wasn't intentional, but it happened. So, the screwing around started happening in our relationship and that. So I think that's why it took so long for him to propose to me because I cheated on him so many times. And so I actually left working at home base because management, it just started turning really yucky. And he left a while before that. He left probably before I left. It's probably a year before I left there. And he went to Home Depot. And then I went and got a job at a place in Moore Park called Chewy's. There's only one left in Simi Valley now. But
and what kind of, is that like a restaurant?
It's a restaurant bar. Yeah. So I learned, and that's when I learned how to bartend. And that, I had it under my belt with my family, like, your kid, go make me a drink. Well, how do I make it? Telling me with the shots and stuff. So, but that was really fun and went through that. And then Eric and we moved in together. He had a condo that he previously owned. And so Eric and I moved together into the condo. That's when he proposed to me. And I worked at Chewy's for a couple of years.
Was it a romantic proposal?
Kinda, not like super romantic. It was just like one night. Yeah. Like one night, here's like, him and I talking on the couch like you and I are. And then all of a sudden it was like he got on his knee and then like proposed to me. So
did you cry? Were you excited?
I was very excited.
Okay.
Yeah. I was very happy and very excited. But he was, we were definitely bipolar opposites, basically. He was more of the stay at home kind of guy where I wanted to go out and experience life and do things. He's not like a people person at all. So I think I always kept looking for that in other men and that. And so I started working at another bar also to make more money in the evening. So I worked at Chewy's during the day, and then the evening I worked at a place called Judge Roy Beans and bartended there, and I was making good money. And then it's like, it was probably, I'm going to say like 2 years after we had been living together that we finally got married. And it was wonderful. It was great. I was faithful like through that kind of period of time. And then I got pregnant. Actually, I forgot about this part. When I was 9, so I was met him when I was 20. And so I had gotten pregnant and got an abortion because it was just in the beginning of our relationship. So I had an abortion then. And then, but to come back to where we are in the story, then I had gotten pregnant probably 2 years after we had gotten married. Everything was great, fine. Like we were doing well. We did couples counseling because there was a lot of issues. And of course, his arising was like her drinking. It's her drinking. It's her drinking, you know.
And were you drinking every day at this point?
In the evenings, yeah. I was never an around the clock drinker. I was the, you know, Monday through Friday type of drinker. Monday through Friday, it was on during the evening as soon as I got home.
Okay. So it wasn't at work when you were bartending?
No. I mean, stuff like shots were bought for me and everything, but I drank them after. And then when I got off work or whatever, I was out till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you know, winding down and hanging out with whoever was around and that's when I would drink. And then we would go to someone's house and hang out at someone's house because we were wired and still awake, you know, with the people that I worked with. So that intense is not respectful to Eric and everything. So when we were going through marriage counseling, that was one of his biggest complaints. It's like, she has no respect for, you know, to our marriage or to us, because she just thinks there's no problem with staying out till 2-3 o'clock in the morning because she doesn't get off till work, you know, till 2 or 1:30, and that where she should come home, you know. And I was taking it as like, oh, you're being this overbearing asshole. It's not the case. It was just about respect. So I got pregnant, and he basically, because I wasn't ready. I was like, I didn't want a kid till I was 30. And I was like, I still have like, he's 25. Yeah, I was 25 when I got pregnant. I was like, I have my whole life ahead of me. Like, I don't want to get pregnant and be tied down like by some kid. And he point blank looked at me. He goes, if you don't have this baby, he goes, that's it. I'm done. Well, needless to say, that threat, I have a 27-year-old daughter now who's absolutely beautiful. But the threat worked. And so we went through, and we were married for like 20 years. And basically, you know, I met my best friend at that time. I met Shannon, and then her and I would go out a lot. She ended up renting a room from us and moving in. And her and I would go out a lot. And then we also, because she worked at Chewy's as well. And so we met, she met her now husband. And that's when the cocaine came back into play for me. So we would go out and party our butts off. And it was one of those things that I just, you know, would go, and he like, you know where I'm at, I've called you, and leaving him home with, you know, our not even 1-year-old child, and coming home at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Like, you knew where I was at. Why are you being such a jerk about the situation? Like, why is this a problem? That's what my alcoholism does to me. And the drugs, of course, you know. And those
sorry to cut you off. Was there any kind of drinking while you were pregnant?
No. Well, actually, I take it back. It was probably maybe the first month in my pregnancy. Because they didn't know I was pregnant. But once I found out I was pregnant, I quit drinking.
And how easy was that to just
Very simple.
Yeah.
It was very simple. Yeah. Like
no withdrawals, no kind of
nothing
thing like that.
Yeah, nothing.
Just like mother mode kicked in.
100%.
Okay.
Like that's 100% what happened. Okay. I'm like, I have a child in my body. Now, smoking cigarettes, that was another story. That was like a couple of months before I dropped that.
Kids come out stronger when you smoke drink.
Like that was a couple of months.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a couple of months before I quit smoking, and that had a great pregnancy, easy pregnancy. You know, I didn't have morning sickness or anything like that. You know, everything's fine and dandy with them. With Eric, we were doing great through our relationship because I wasn't out drinking and using. And then after I gave birth to Erica, and it was probably like a couple of months after, and my friends were like, hey, like, what? You guys come out and meet us at Chewy's or whatever. And we were living with were in between because he sold the condo because the condo complex that we were in was kind of turning a little on the trashy side because a lot of the owners were just renting out type of thing. So it was turning in basically like an apartment situation. So we moved out. We moved in with his parents briefly right before I gave birth to my daughter, Erica. And so we were staying at his parents' house, and then we were looking for a house at the same time. And then my friends were just like, hey, like, you know, you want to come out for a drink? And I asked him, I'm like, is it okay if I go out and everything? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. You could go out for a couple hours. I'm like, do you want to go with me? He's like, no, like I have no interest in it whatsoever. So I met my friends. It was at Chewy's, met my friends at Chewy's, and we had a couple of beers. And then next thing I know, the cigarettes in one hand, drinking like a fish in the other. And it was back, you know, off to being on my own. Like, I was like, oh, I have a child. Oh no, I don't. Like he's got it. He's taking care of her. He's a good dad. And it's funny because in that time, I didn't realize intentionally what I was doing, but I look back at it now and I was like, I was such a jerk, like such a jerk. Just no consideration whatsoever. Like that's what alcohol and drug does to me. It's just no consideration. It's just about me and having a good time is what it's about. And life's too short. So it just took off after that and started smoking again. And I was going out, and I'd go and I'd stay at my girlfriend's house. Like I was saying before, I'd come home like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning after we'd been, you know, partying. It would be either at her house or we would go out to a club and having affairs. You know, I started having affairs and off and on and everything. But I'd come home and it's just like, he just looked at me like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? You know, he's like, he just like one point, he just looked at me and he's like, I don't know how long I can do this. I can't, like, you have not even a year-old kid and you keep going out and coming home at 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, you're putting your life in jeopardy when you're driving. You know, there's so many times I should have gotten busted. Like I seriously should have gotten pulled over, whatever, coming home because I was just higher than a kite and drunker than a skunk. And that is just how I never got in an accident or any of that, like astonishes me to this day. So he kind of put that gauntlet down with me and was basically like, listen, like this is not going to work unless you quit going out and doing these things. And so I was like, okay, I'll do my best and everything. And so I kind of became probably for about 6 or 7 years, you know, just became the housewife that drank, did the thing. You know, it's one of those things I never drank at work. Been to work hung over as fuck, but never drank at work. And it's so funny because, you know, the hand trembling started kicking in and that, you know, during the day, and my boss was like, at the time with the job that I was at, like your hand trembling is like crazy. Or like, you know, are you doing drugs? Are you like, is everything okay? I'm like, I'm not doing drugs. It's just the alcohol, you know, whatever. It's just from drinking and that. And it got to the point where I was like downing probably 1.5 liters a night of
Whoa.
wine, like no problem whatsoever, like every single night. And then vodka kind of came into play as well, like the martini. Like if it was a really bad day, it was like, oh, I need a martini before I start drinking the wine. I didn't see, you know, of course, no problem with it whatsoever. And then blackouts started kicking in. I blame it on the vodka. I didn't sneak. I never like really like totally sneaked. Like I would have like the vodka stored in the cabinet or whatever. or in the freezer, and I would go and like take a shot, but I would kind of do that sneaky, but I wasn't sneaky in my drinking, like hiding it in the hamper, you know, in closets and that. I was very like, this is me. This is what you get, you know, type of thing. But I didn't go out as much. Like I went out like a few times, and he came along a few times just to have fun and that. But as our daughter got older and my in-laws watched her, but the blackouts started kicking in, and that's when I turned into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it was one of those things where I would leave the room and think somebody's talking shit about me as I left the room. And then Dr. Jekyll came back into the room, was like, fuck you, and, you know, screw you, and this, that, and the other, and just going off. Like quit talking shit about me. It's like, I'm not talking about you. Like, what is wrong with you? And so he was like, he had really had it. I mean, very patient man, obviously, that he stuck with me for like this long and all that I did to him. And he's like, I think we need to go to marriage counseling again. So we started going to marriage counseling again. And he had become unfaithful as well. And I was like, legit, totally faithful in this time span. And like, then he decided to have an affair, rightfully so, because I was a jerk. Then he had an affair, and then I found out about it. And he was just like, what do you expect? Like, you know, there's no intimacy between the two of us. All you're doing is just drinking. You're drunk all, you know, when you're home in the evening. Like the only time I see you sober is from, you know, 5 o'clock in the evening when you walk to the door to like 5:20, and, you know, and the next thing I know, you're already headed towards your buzz and that. And, so he just said, I think we need like marriage counseling if we want to save this marriage, because we were doing it for our daughter. And so we started marriage counseling, and then the marriage counselor, she met with us separately at first and then together. So she said, well, I want you to take this questionnaire. And so I was like, okay. She goes, I need you to answer these questions because Eric's really struggling with your drinking. And this is going to help us pinpoint if you have a problem. Well, needless to say, it was the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 questions. And so I went, and of course there was only a couple of no's like on it, but basically I checked all the boxes. And so she said, well, there's these really great meetings that are just up the street and it's a great place to go to, which was Unity in Simi Valley. And so I went, so I was like, she goes, just try some meetings out and just see. And at this point I'm like, okay, like what's it going to hurt? I need to save my marriage. And so I went, and my first meeting that I went to, I was like sitting there, and I walked in, and it was a men's meeting, and I didn't know that, but I walked in and I was just sitting there, and I'm just like, I am not as bad as these guys are. Like, no, I'm not as bad as this. Like, I haven't been arrested. I haven't been sent to rehab. I haven't killed anybody because of my drinking and that. I'm like, I'm not as bad as these people. So I was like, okay. So the guy after the meeting, he goes, sweetheart, he goes, they have a great women's meeting here on Saturdays at 10 a.m. I highly suggest that you try that out. So I was like, okay. And I think it was like a Thursday. And so I went to that women's meeting on Saturday, same attitude. I mean, they were beautiful women. It was packed. Like that meeting was always a very overwhelming meeting when walking in as a newcomer, you know, because they literally will huddle around you. And so I went to that and sat there, same attitude. I'm not as bad as what these women are portraying that their alcoholism is. I'm like, I'm totally fine. I'll just cut down on my drinking and manage it myself is what went through my head. So I got my little taste of AA then. And it was probably...
And what age was this at?
I want to say... So I was 42 when I got sober.
Like 30s, 31? 32?
Yeah, it was probably around that time. And so just went on, and I somewhat managed it. I'd only come home and have 2 glasses of wine rather than the liter and the half type of thing. And I did it for a period of time and lost a lot of weight and, was becoming part of my daughter's life and a part of Eric's life and everything. And things were fine and things were good. We started doing stuff together, and then there was that period of time. And then it took, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I went out with my girlfriend. That was, my best friend at that time. She's like, hey, it's my birthday. You want to go out? And I asked Eric, is that all right? He goes, yeah, it's fine. Just be home at a reasonable time. That's all I ask of you. He's like, 2 a.m. is good. That's it. I don't like rules. I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning, higher than a kite, drunker than a skunk, with a bag of Coke on top of that. I was like, oh, I'm just going to buy this. I have the money in my pocket. I'm going to buy myself a bag. And so I got home, and, it was one of those things that the next day, because I want to say it was like a Saturday or something like that I went out. And so the next day he walked in on me in the bathroom because I was sneaking a bump. And I was like, because I was hungover, and I'm like, I need a bump to take this edge off and everything. And he walked in, and he's like, you bought some? You bought some. He goes, we are so broken. I said, I had $50 in my pocket. He goes, well, how'd you pay for your alcohol? I said, everybody else bought it for me. He goes, so rather than giving the $50 back to us, you bought a bag of Coke. I'm like, I did. And that whole disappointment came over his face, and shaking his head and just walked away. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, whatever. I'm just, doing to have a good time. He's like, well, don't let us be a habit. So I was like, okay. Every day in that bathroom, I'm like, okay. I got home from work. I'm like, all right, until I ran out. And then it just kept going. And it's finally he just looked at me. He said, listen, we cannot afford your drinking and cocaine habit. He goes, you need to stop one or the other. He goes, I'm preferring the most expensive one. He goes, you need to stop. And so I had no problem. And it was the same thing with meth. I had no problem putting that down. But the grips of what alcohol did to me, and then what I felt when I would drink, that was hard to put down. So I quit doing the Coke, no problem. I'm like, okay. And he's like, and you need to cut back on your drinking again. You're getting out of control. So it's all right, whatever. So I tried for just a short time and that to, quit on my own. My daughter at this point, she was in high school. And I was the cool mom, according to her friends, because her mom, they would come over to our house to stay the night, whatever. And, I got involved and I talked with them and the whole thing. Meanwhile, my daughter's just like no blackouts, please, in her head, because we've talked about it since and everything. And, just have fun and just be the responsible mom. But here I am with my glass of wine and everything. And then there was this one time, one of her closest friends, she was almost like family. She was over. And I went into a blackout and I went off on Eric, in front of them, you mother, blah, blah, blah. And always I'd always push him to the point, I would want him to hit me. That's how crazy I would get in these blackouts, and up in his face and everything. And then, Erica was just like done. It's like, and then the next morning, of course, wake up, you know, everything's fine. Like what, you know, and then have her looking at me, just shaking her head in the total disappointment and stuff. I'm like, what happened? She goes, Mom, you totally got like, we're ready to fight Dad, you know? But that's what alcohol does to me, especially in the blackouts. So to fast forward just a tiny bit, I had a family friend, and he had rented a room from my cousin, Jason, Scott. And Scott was his around the clock drinker. And finally, my cousin and his wife had to kick him out. And he had 2 years of sobriety at this point. You know, and he, you know, would come to family parties or whatever, and I'd see like how great and amazing he was doing and how good he looked and all that, you know, and they kept saying to all my family members, can't you say something to Theresa? He goes, nope. If she wants the help, she's got to come to me and ask. He goes, I'm not, you know, I'll drop the little thing of like, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. He goes, but other than that, he's like, no, she has to want the help in order to do it. So it came to that point. I didn't have his phone number, but I came home that evening. I made dinner, watched TV. Like I even asked Eric and Erica about it. Like, did I do anything crazy? Did anything crazy happen? And they're like, no, nothing crazy happened. And I came home and made dinner and I passed out on the couch, because there was a lot of times I just pass out on the couch, one of the couches in the house or whatever, and then wake up out of the blackout. I don't remember making dinner. I don't remember eating dinner. I don't remember the conversations that happened. And for some reason, it scared the crap out of me. And so it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I sent Scott a message on Facebook, and I said to him, I'm like, I'm done. I need help. Next morning, 6:30 in the morning, he called me, and he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting ready to go to work. And I was crying. Like I was just so upset. And he goes, so you're going to work? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, what are you doing after work? I said, well, I got to come home. I got to make dinner. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to. He goes, okay, this is what you're going to do. He goes, you're going to meet me at a church, and there's a meeting there. And at that time, my mom was visiting. And she was here visiting. And so I asked my mom to go with me. And my mom had a taste of AA when she was with the evil stepdad before, because it got to the point with them where she was like, you need to go to meetings or something. And so she would go to meetings with them. So she got a little taste of it. And so she had told me, she goes, Theresa, you're going to meet some of the most wonderful people that you'll ever meet in your whole entire life. She goes, and don't get me wrong, nobody is perfect. And she goes, you're going to meet some of the most horrible people also in this. But if you're really serious about it, she goes, a new world's going to open up for you, and bigger and better things. And your whole life, it'll just keep getting better no matter what. And so I was like, okay. And so he met me. It was at the 5:45 meeting. And Scott met me there, and he introduced me to some of the women, and of course, some of the gentlemen that were in the room as well. He sat by me. He was like, at that time, he was like a big brother, very protective and everything. And whatever was said in that meeting, it stuck. And it was one of those like, oh, I've arrived, like feeling. When they say the hole in the donut hole's been filled, that's what happened for me. I've been super blessed by that. And it was one of those things that for the first time in my life, it was something that I fully and absolutely wanted to do because I had no other choice, because I was definitely going to lose my marriage. I was definitely going to lose the relationship with my daughter if I didn't change. And I just wanted to feel better. I was so tired because I am a very happy, positive person, because that's just the way my whole entire family is. So that's the way I was brought up. No matter what dark shit hit our lives, there's always the bright side to the situation. And there's always a reason for why things are happening to you. So that's always been my outlook on life. And it still is. And in fact, my friends call me rainbows and unicorns because I'm so positive. But so it just stuck, it totally stuck. And I didn't have a problem like a lot of people do. I always believed there was a God. So I didn't have any problem with that. My family wasn't religious by any means. They were not churchgoers or anything like that. But it was one of those things that I always believed that there was something, I was more, because I even read when I was still drinking, I used to read the book of Buddhism, the freaking book of Jehovah. Like I started reading all these little things because I was grasping always for that spirituality portion of it, to try to fix me. And it always intrigued me and that, but,
did you read the Bible by any chance?
Not the whole Bible, no, just bits and pieces. But it, and meditation and, all that, like yeah. I dove into all that when I was drinking. So Jody, who was in the meeting, I don't remember verbatim of what she said, but she was a very spiritual lady. And whatever it was that she said, it stuck in my head. And I was like, that is what I want. That is the way I want to feel. And that's what I want. And then I just continued to go to meetings. I got a temporary sponsor, which was Scott's girlfriend at that time. And, started working the steps and started meeting up with her and going to meetings like every single day. I did the whole, if not more than 90 and 90, 90 meetings, 90 days. I did it. And, then the change started happening. There was no more hand trembles, and that there was actually waking up and like, oh, I want to do life, even though I hated my job, but I want to do life. I want to do this and everything. And the clarity that came with being brand new sober and just looking at stupid things of the sky and the flowers and just how clear-minded I felt. I fell in love with that. Like absolutely fell in love with that. And then my marriage with Eric, it started to drift away even more so, even though I was sober. And this is what he always wanted. My marriage started to dwindle. To this day, I mean, we've never fully discussed it, but I just don't think he knew what to do with his sober wife, because that's all he's ever known is the drunk person. And we drifted like apart a bit, and we did like a couple of sessions of therapy, but, honestly, with the way we were, in life, because I was wanting to go do things and I was wanting to like, just like I was drinking in a way, but sober, like it was AA stuff. Oh, we're going over here. We're going over there and fellowshipping and all that. Do you want to come? No, I don't like people. I don't want to go. Like, I have no interest in like any of that. And he didn't want any part of it, like whatsoever. And then Scott, in his relationship, because he was like my buddy at the time, you see where this is going probably. But Scott, he and his relationship started to dwindle as well. The two of us started to become closer and closer. And then the intimacy started to come to play, because it was the flirting, the joking, and everything. And then it got to the point where it was intimate, and I started having somewhat of an affair, even though I was ready to leave Eric. Like I was just done with the marriage. I was done trying, and I know he was done trying. And at that time I had found a new sponsor. And I hadn't told her what was going on between Scott and I until one night she asked me, she goes, have you ever messed around with Scott before? And I just went, whoop. I'm all, maybe. She goes, oh my God. She goes, why did you tell me? I'm like, I was scared too, like a mom, like telling your mom that you did something wrong. And that she goes, well, you have to divorce Eric. She goes, this is not right. You shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're living under that same roof. You need to have discussions with Eric. You need to be honest with him. And that's when, I was working the steps, and B, I was trying to build my life and myself to become that woman of dignity and grace. So she's like, you need to be honest with him. I said, well, I don't want to tell him about the affair because I know that's going to hurt him, because Eric was friends with Scott. And it's like, I can't, like, that'll destroy him. And she goes, okay, well, you need to put the divorce thing out because you can't continue on like this. So I sat down with Eric and said, I think it's time that we get a divorce. And he agreed, and I stayed in the house for a little bit. And then I moved out July of 2016, and I moved in with my cousin briefly. And Scott and I were dating and we were doing our thing. Like it was off. Like, we kind of kept stuff on the down low because I was just recently, separated and it's not right. And he was also trying to, I guess, keep your image up basically. So we kept it on the down low for a few months. And then, September, he asked me, he goes, I'm going to visit my family in Mississippi. Like, do you want to go with me? And I was like, yeah, like, let's go, And so we went to Mississippi, but mind you, cause Scott and I drank together at my cousin's house, cause he, rented the room and everything. So we had that 8-year prior to all of this of friendship. So there definitely was that connection, like 100%, with us. And then we went on that trip to Mississippi, went to New Orleans, and we had an amazing time together. And when we got back, he just like, what do you think about moving in? And I was like, well, I kind of wanted to like live life. I'm like, I know I'm at my cousin's house, but just kind of adjust between being married for 20 years, and here we are, like basically in this relationship. Like I, just wanted to adjust a little bit and everything. And so he's like, okay, I'll respect that. He goes, but, let me know, like either way, I would love for you to come live with me. I would like to take this even further. So it's like, okay, well, that lasted a couple of weeks of me going back and forth, like staying the night on his house and on the weekends, and then packing my stuff up and going back to my cousins and that. And, then, our recovery together, like took off, like absolutely, took off. I did the steps a couple of times, going through that. I've done them like probably 6 times, through my sobriety, but, going through it and everything. And, like we were that power couple basically. And then just living an amazing sober life together. And then probably I'm trying to pinpoint years here.
And does Eric end up finding out about the relationship between you and Scott?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah. Going, backtracking to that. Yeah, he found out.
And how did he take it?
He knew. He said that he knew. He said there was one time that like Scott had picked me up for a meeting and then dropped me off and everything. And he like we didn't kiss, but he saw us in the car, like talking face to face. And he goes, I knew it right then and there. He goes, I knew you guys were, you know, together. And that he goes, that's why I didn't fight you on the divorce. But, when I did my steps for the second time is when I fully made that amends to him and continue to make the living amends for all the damage I caused in his life. Today, Eric and I have a very unique relationship. He is basically my best friend and I am his. And even with Scott, like it's so unique that even Scott, to the point, because Scott was a tile contractor, he would go into Home Depot and Eric works at the pro desk. He's like, hey, I'm making some spaghetti. You want to come over tonight? Like, that's how we were. We get Eric out to go do stuff with us and everything. Eric finally gave me, on my 10th birthday, he finally gave me my first cake. He had never been there for any of my chips or any of that through the years or any of my cakes. It was the first time that he gave me my cake. But we have an amazing relationship.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like seriously. And all the damage that I caused, like the poor guy, I swear to God.
Shout out, Eric.
Like a huge shout out. You put up with so much.
Homie deserves to win the lottery.
He totally does. He deserves the perfect woman and to win the lottery. Like he deserves the perfect life, like 100%. But yeah, he's an amazing guy, like totally amazing guy. And I'm so blessed to have him in my life. And I'm so grateful for him. And that, but, you know, kind of just been through in that time frame. Like, I don't know how much time we have because
there's we have as much time as you need.
Okay. So we, you know, Scott and I live in life, and Scott is always a doer. Like, let's get out, let's go here, let's go there, let's go, you know. And then I have my moments where I'm like, okay, I am done peopling. Like, I need to sit on this couch and watch TV and like do nothing. Like if you want to go out, by all means, go out, have fun, and, you know, do whatever. So he kind of looked at me like, what? I'm like, listen, I need one day of not peopling. I said, it gets too much after a while. I go, I know it's for you, but it's not for me. But we were constantly on the go, like taking trips and that, like, you know, going up to Cambria, like, and then his daughter, you know, they and son-in-law, like they live in Texas. So we fly to Texas and, you know, go visit them and go visit my son-in-law and everything. And so just living the life. Like a life that I always, and no offense to Eric, the life that I always wanted, Scott gave to me. He treated me like gold, like seriously, like the biggest queen of the world. Like I was his center and he was mine. We had a very deep, beautiful relationship. He definitely would call me out on my shit in a heartbeat, and I would call him out on his. And then going through life with him, you know, in the past 5 years, I've had a lot of losses, as you were asking me about my parents. My pappy had died when I was still married to Eric. He passed away suddenly from pancreatitis. He passed away from. And that was, oh gosh, I want to say it's been 14 years since he's passed away. And then and then COVID hit, and my dad, then my dad passed away. And my uncle also passed away in the same year. And the one thing that I love is that there's so many people in the rooms, whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous or narcotic or whatever your choice may be, that have walked through hell and you get to witness that, and they like do not drink or do not use drugs like whatsoever. That's the amazing part of being in a program, for me personally, definitely. So I was able to watch other people as they lost their loved ones, to walk through a lot. My mom, who is still living in Sacramento, she got sick during COVID. Basically, I shouldn't say like got sick. She had severe COPD. She was on her own basically, and she went to classes to help her, like walking treadmills, and she walked 5 miles like no problem, but they shut down those classes. So that was her social part of it, of her life that got shut down, and she basically became a hermit, and had one health issue after another. She was in the hospital off and on all the time during COVID. So I'd have to fly up there and be with her. And finally it got to the point, because she was living at my aunt and uncle owned, my other aunt and uncle, but they owned the house. And so she rented that house from them. And it got to the point where my Aunt Donna was like, the house, like I would go up there and she would leave. And this is not my mom. My mom raised me in a very OCD clean environment. I would go up there and there would be dishes that have been there for weeks, just covered in mold. And it was just absolutely disgusting. And I would go up and I would clean and take care of her. And that and her cognitive started to go. And I was like, I'm wondering if she has Alzheimer's or dementia. And so finally my aunt was like, this is it. She needs to either go to a home or she needs to move down close by you. She goes, I will help financially with whatever is needed, but this is it. I'm telling her that it's too expensive for us to keep the house going. You have to move out. So that happened in 2022. We moved her down to Simi Valley and got an apartment for her. So she still was on her own. And then we could visit her and make sure everything was okay, hoping that she would improve being close by. Well, she didn't improve at all. She just I think at that point, and also she developed Alzheimer's because of her, all of her medical issues that she had suffered. It affected that part of her brain and then started developing Alzheimer's. I was like, oh, this explains all the behavior that was going on with her. So we took care of her. And that honestly, before I was flying back and forth to go check on her and make sure everything was okay and make sure the house was okay, we hired maids, everything, and just making sure everything was in line. Out of all my years in sobriety, that was the only time, because I would be on my own. I'd get off the freeway because it was so hard taking care of your mom, because they're basically the child and you've become the adult. And, getting off the freeway, headed towards her house. And I'm like, I have to stop at the store and pick up some stuff because she doesn't have anything at the house. So I have to pick up some things. It's 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, and all of a sudden I call it the little devil that comes dancing through my head. It's like, well, you could get a bottle for yourself. You could drink, because dealing with that and all the stress that came with it was the first time in my sobriety that I wanted to drink, so bad, just literally so bad. And it scared the crap out of me, because I've seen so many people come in and out and not being able to get it, or they die, one or the other. And so I'd immediately call my sponsor, because my sponsor was like, you call me, if you're thinking whatever, you call me right away. So I did. I called her and she would talk me down off the ledge and that. And thank God it was brief and it didn't become obsessive. And I prayed like crazy, God, just please get this out of my head. Please give me the willingness to take care of my mom and take care of what needs to be taken care of. So we moved her down here, and then my mom progressively got worse and worse. And it was a year. It was a year. And She had been going in and out of the hospital. She suffered a lot of breathing issues. This last time she was in the hospital for probably about a month and a half, because they had to keep her on a high flow oxygen because she literally like couldn't breathe. So it was almost, but she was awake and alert of what was going on. So she wasn't like, I think if she was out of it and wasn't awake and alert, that she was conscious, then I definitely would have been like, all right, that's it. Like shut her down. Basically, she was depending upon a machine to keep her alive with her breathing. And she was on a high flow of oxygen. And I saw her go through hell, like literally through hell, because she started getting nosebleeds, and it was horrible. But at this point in time, I had developed a relationship with a little pack of women in the program, and we all became very close. Those women held me up through that. They're such a godsend. Right before my mom had passed, Scott got diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer.
Oh, wow.
And at first we were like, okay, is this treatable? Like, what can we do? So all the time I got my mom, and then my stepmom started declining in her health. Cause she actually, developed a form of Alzheimer's, which is called dysphagia. It's basically the same one that Bruce Willis has. It affects a lot. Your speech is one of them. And I noticed her speech was getting off, because I called my stepmom and I'm like, is she like hitting the bottle, And everybody's like, no. And then finally my stepmom had told me like, no, I have dysphagia and everything. So all 3 of these things had happened between my mom's health declining rapidly, and then Scott getting diagnosed, and then my stepmom. And thank God my step aunt took care of my stepmom. So it was one less thing that I had to worry about. So we went, and my mom passed away in 2023. She passed away, and it was probably a few months after Scott had gotten diagnosed. Scott did his first radiation treatment, and it worked wonders. And he was great for a year and a half. And then, just going through, but the whole time he was the most positive, God-fearing man. Like he was like, all right, God, like what is it that you have in store for us? Let's do this. And he was determined that he was going to meet it, like 100% determined. He went through and he did the one radiation treatment and did great for a year and a half. He would go every 6 months to get an MRI done. It was in the beginning, it was only 3 months. Every 3 months he was getting an MRI done. And then they're like, all right, we'll see you in 6 months, because your cancer tumor marker numbers are way down. Like his cancer tumor markers were like at like 10,000, and you're only supposed to be like, the lowest is supposed to be like, I think between the highest you're supposed to be is 8. And so he had dropped all the way from like 13,000 all the way, down to 5 and that. And so like, you're doing like wonderful. And so 6 months went, he'd go and he did like, it was like a year, basically a year. He was doing really good. And then the cancer came back. And so he went back to the radiologist to see if he can do the same treatment that he did. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it because he wasn't able for a transplant either, because his cancer was in the main portal veins that go to the liver. So they said, if it's touched, it's like wildfire. We can't do this. So the whole time it's like, I'd pull him in, like, come on, like he would start tripping out, like, I got to sell my truck. I got to do this, like preparing for the end of life, basically. And I'd be like, no, trust in God. And I'm like, where are your feet? Like, quit looking like in the future and the back. Like, let's focus on like what's right now. And that, but, just going through that, and at times it was hard, but he was always very positive through it, going through it and everything. And of course there were hard times with it. So 2024 rolls around and his cancer came back. He went to the radiologist. He tried to do the same exact treatment that he could, but he couldn't do it because, his basically, I can't think of the proper term for it, but basically it's like the veins that are around your esophagus, they can inflame and they become like varicose veins, and they can explode on you. And basically you're going to bleed internally, like rapidly. So like, he's like, I can't do this radiation. You're going to need to try this stuff. It's immunotherapy, which is like a very mild chemotherapy. So he started the immunotherapy, and he did good up until this past year in July. I want to say it started happening 4th of July weekend, but he had chest pain. And so he went to the emergency. It was almost like he felt like he was having a heart attack. And he went to emergency, and then, they were like, you're totally fine. There's something wrong with your heart. It could have been like really bad heartburn. So he's like, okay. And he was on acid reflux medicine for that. So it's like, all right, it is what it is. And then he started feeling fine. And then a week later, he started having very bad abdominal pain and digestive issues. And he was feeling really sick. But he had also gone for his 6-month MRI the week prior. And so finally, the Friday after he had gotten his MRI, he called his radiologist because we had Kaiser insurance and they move slower than molasses unless it's an emergency. So he called the radiologist. He's like, can you look at the test reports? He was like, I'm not doing good. I don't feel good. Something's not right. Like he knew something was wrong. And the whole time I'm like, trying to keep him positive and everything. Well, the radiologist called him back, and we trusted him like completely. He was a very forthright person with Scott. And he's like, listen, your bile ducts or one of your bile ducts are clogged. He goes, the written report is coming back. I don't have the pictures back yet. He goes, but the written portion of the MRI is coming back. He goes, and one of your bile ducts are blocked. You need to get to emergency as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to go into liver failure. So Scott went and he took care of stuff, and he went to the ER. And I worked down the street from the Kaiser in Woodland Hills. And I went there after I was done with work, and they just started running more tests on him. They're like, oh, we think you have a blood clot. And we're like, and then they started pulling up images from the MRI. We're like, where? And they're like, oh, it's right here. We're like, no, that's the cancer in his portal vein. That's not a blood clot. And he developed a new small tumor inside the liver. So like, well, you have a new tumor inside the liver. So we're going to hold you because we're going to treat you because we think this is like, there's a blood clot in the bile duct area. It's like, okay. So they started giving him blood thinners and everything, and they admitted him. And then they went in and they're like, well, we need to go in and first see, we're going to do an endoscopy on you to see, because we're seeing some stuff around your esophagus and then the bottom of your bile duct, because we may want to put some stents in to get the fluid flowing. And that, okay, like if it's going to make him feel better, whatever. And he's like, it's always been one of those things where he's pulled out of things just like that, like no problem whatsoever. So they put these stents in, and then he starts getting worse. And I think what happened, even though they were trying to help him in that case, is when they put those stents in, I think that it bothered the cancer in his liver, because the radiologist point blank's like, we cannot touch this. Like, it'll spread like wildfire through your whole body. Well, after those stents got put in, his abdomen started swelling. He went out on a Friday, And I want to say it was a Thursday, almost 2 weeks after that he passed away. He ended up passing away. His abdomen like swelled. They put drains in him to try to drain out the fluid. And it just got to the point, like every day after they had gone in internally, there was something new and something worse that was happening with them. So yeah, he passed away July 30th of this year.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. But I haven't even wanted to drink through this whole entire time. It hasn't even crossed my mind. And this has been the hardest loss. Like losing my parents was one thing, I think, because they were really sick, where Scott wasn't really sick up until, July 18th. He wasn't really sick. And that he was my partner and my best friend. But while we were in the hospital and when we got the news that like we had to get family there and that my girls showed up, their men showed up at the hospital and they were down in the lobby area. We had a makeshift like place outside of the ICU room. We had it was like this little room and they were there for like our family, Eric showed up. It's like all these people were there to support us and to be there for him. And he touched so many people's lives. Like it literally, my phone was blowing up all the time. And I said, listen, it's not a pretty sight. You're not going to recognize him because he had jaundice severely, he was sleeping half of the time anyways. The doctor point blank told us that we have to keep him, to get all the family here, we need to keep him on dialysis. But once all the family gets here, we need to stop the dialysis because he did not want this. Like point blank, he did not want to be dependent upon machines at all and live that life. And so, our family, his kids, his sisters and nephews and nieces and all that, they finally got there so they could say their goodbyes, to them. But the whole time, Alcoholics Anonymous was right there holding us all up.
Yeah.
Through everything. Like both of us, And I honestly believe I get tears of gratitude. Like, you can't find that out there drinking and using. Nobody gives a shit about you when you're out there drinking and using. Like, not at all. I mean, you may find those rare occurrences where you have that best friend in life, but it's like, it's not there, where now it's like, I can never repay for what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. It's giving me a life and an understanding and to be able to deal with life when life comes at me, and it's a miracle to be like sitting here and not even be mad at God. That's the other thing. Yeah. Like my sponsor, she's like, you mean to tell me you're not pissed off at God? I'm like, no. I said, clearly God needed Scott more than, we did. He had to go for a reason. Or he saw that everything was going to get really bad if he were to get somewhat better. And he didn't want to make that, happen to Scott.
Yeah.
And they helped me and they held me up through a celebration of life, and they've held me up after, through it. I'm just I'm so blessed, is what they call him. He was my Eskimo, basically. And that God placed us together to live the life that we did. And I wouldn't change it for the world. Even with him dying, I wouldn't change it for the world. Like in the least bit.
Yeah.
Like not one bit.
Well, that's a remarkable attitude to have, especially when you face so much loss and so much adversity. So it's fair to say that the community of Alcoholics Anonymous was not just a community, but a family, and something that was your strength through all these difficulties.
Yeah.
And to kind of end it off, my last question I want to ask is, say it was your last day to go today, how would you want the world to remember you by?
My positive attitude and the love and support that I give people. That I'm always willing to be there. And I'm always willing just to sit next to you if you need to cry and let there be silence. You know, just basically the loving, funny person that I can be at times. But yeah, that's definitely the way I would want to be remembered.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good answer. Well, thank you for your time with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.